If you're a Drake hater, 2024 has probably been the best year of your life, and this week has only made it better. Over the last few days, multiple reference tracks have leaked, showing different artists performing songs that we all thought were written by Drake. Now, this isn't something new. We've seen this before, right? We all remember Quentin Miller writing half of Drake's If You're Reading This It's Too Late project, and we've seen PARTYNEXTDOOR locked up in the OVO sweatshop for ages now, writing some of Drake's biggest hits. But this is a much different situation, and between Kendrick Lamar warning Drake about having leaks in his OVO camp, to us then seeing multiple Drake reference tracks being leaked over the last few weeks. Beyond just public perception, things are looking a little bit scary for Drake, and for a few different reasons that we're going to cover in this video. Now, it's important to remember that, again, multiple Drake reference tracks have leaked in the past, but there's something very, very different about this situation, so let's dive into it. So if you guys didn't remember, back in 2015, Meek Mill randomly hopped on Twitter one day and started exposing Drake for not only not showing up to Meek Mill's show, but also for having ghostwriters and having a ghostwriter write Drake's verse on Meek Mill's project. This was one of the craziest exposés in hip-hop history, right? Quentin Miller was exposed as the ghostwriter, and we come to find out that he wrote almost half of Drake's If You're Reading This It's Too Late project. Reference tracks leaked for songs like 10 Bands, Used To, Know Yourself, No Tellin', his verse on Meek Mill's song called Rico. And we also heard a PARTYNEXTDOOR reference track for the intro off If You're Reading This It's Too Late called Legend. So at the time, this was a bad look for Drake because he just dropped what some would consider his best, or at least his most bar-focused rap project with If You're Reading This It's Too Late. And we come to find out that half of the bars were completely stolen by this guy named Quentin Miller. For some artists, this would be career-shattering, but Drake got really lucky because he was going up against an opponent who was either drugged out or maybe a little bit slow, right? Meek Mill could not participate properly in this battle. And for that reason, Drake was able to put the ghostwriting rumors to bed completely by obliterating Meek Mill, dropping his songs Charged Up and Back to Back, some legendary diss tracks that really put the nail in the coffin for the ghostwriting rumors and almost for Meek Mill's career. Now, while the blow of Back to Back kind of made us all forget or just not care about all the ghostwriters that Drake was using in the past, he basically goes on to drop some of the biggest albums and singles of his career, with songs like Hotline Bling, One Dance, albums like Views, More Life. Drake was on top of the world. As a casual listener, you probably only grew to appreciate Drake more over these years as he started incorporating different sounds into his hit songs like dancehall, Caribbean music, Afro beats, while he also kept his core audience satisfied with very signature sounding hits like God's Plan or In My Feelings. But if you were a fan of Drake the rapper, Drake the MC, and you held him in high regard in terms of his actual pen game and lyrical skill, those ghostwriting allegations probably completely destroyed your perception of Drake. While you could still casually enjoy his hits, his name was basically completely removed and eliminated from the top rappers of all time conversation because he didn't write his own raps. But this really didn't matter, right? Some of the best rap projects of all time were written by other MCs. Think about Snoop Dogg writing for Dr. Dre, or Jay-Z writing Still Dre by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, or all the verses that guys like Sci-Hi the Prince have written for rappers like Kanye or Travis Scott. Music is a collaborative sport, and as long as the music is actually good, does it really matter who actually wrote it? Well, kinda. See, while Drake was having some of the biggest years of his career after these ghostwriting allegations, he actually ran into a bigger problem. See, we stopped hearing these reference tracks of other people writing Drake songs, but instead, Drake got himself roped into several controversies when other artists accused him of blatantly, flat out stealing their songs. For example, Hotline Bling, which is one of Drake's biggest hits, is a complete ripoff of Dram's song Cha-Cha. Dram expressed his disapproval of Drake interpolating his song, and he allegedly got beat up for it. Another similar instance of this is when XXX came out with the song Look at Me, and 1 year later, Drake comes out with the song KMT, where he's using the exact same flow that X was using. This was a highly publicized back and forth, with X being extremely angry that Drake stole his flow. There's also been other instances of Drake flat out stealing other artists' lyrics. Like on his song For Free, he's directly copying the lyrics from Too Short's song Blow the Whistle. And on his track Look Alive, he's blatantly ripping off the lyrics of Out There by Project Pat. Now you could say this is just paying homage, and if the artists who created the original song don't mind it, then no harm, no foul, right? He's just interpolating their music. But for someone whose authenticity and genuine skill set is constantly coming into question, it's kind of strange that he's constantly using flows and lyrics from other artists. Like, he did a great job at distracting the public from all the ghostwriting situation by dropping a bunch of hits. But at the same time, over those years where he was dropping tons and tons of hits, he was also ripping off lyrics and flows that other artists used and originated in their own songs. But again, between Views and More Life, he's putting out tons of hits, so the general public doesn't really care about the ghostwriting rumors, and there's not enough heavy hip-hop heads to outnumber the amount of Drake fans who just, again, simply don't care that he had ghostwriters. It did nothing in the long term to his legacy, until 2018, when Pusha T drops his album Daytona, and on that album he has a song called Infrared, where he's repeatedly bringing back up the whole Drake ghostwriting situation, and even name-dropping Drake's ghostwriter, Quentin Miller, on his track Infrared. He rapped bars like, "How could you ever write your wrongs when you don't even write your songs?" Or, "It was written like Nas, but it came from Quentin." Now, Drake obviously thought this would be another Meek Mill situation, because the same night that Pusha T dropped that diss track on Infrared, Drake immediately comes back with Duppy Freestyle, addressing all these allegations, all of the ghostwriting rumors, and even confirming that he wrote for Pusha T's protege, Kanye West. Again, ghostwriting or just rappers helping other rappers out with tracks seems to be a common theme within the music industry, but Drake is the only one whose reputation has been tarnished for it. But Drake's mistake here was actually engaging with Pusha T in this beef, because not only was he going up against a stronger technical MC, but he was bringing these ghostwriting rumors and allegations back to life. By starting his Duppy Freestyle song off with the lines, "So if you rebuke me for getting some help with a couple of V's," he's basically shifting the world's attention back on the entire ghostwriting situation, which he did such a great job at distracting everyone from in the prior years. Pusha T follows this up with the story of Adidon, which completely dismantles Drake's character. Everything from the album artwork, where Drake is posing in blackface, to the character assassination and analysis of Drake's entire family dynamic, where he's detailing an identity crisis that Drake suffers due to being biracial. Now, this is where it gets a lot deeper, right? Because on the surface, it almost seems like Drake is suffering from a massive identity crisis. He came into the industry as this young kid who was a former actor who grew up in a white suburban neighborhood, and eventually 10 years later started adopting this mob boss persona, constantly flexing his gang ties and connection to the mob. But beyond Drake just not being comfortable with his own upbringing, the real identity crisis almost lies more in the legacy he's tried to leave behind within music. He's constantly been called a culture vulture for stealing the sounds from Jamaica, Africa, Atlanta, Houston, and being confused on where he wants his legacy to be. He's simultaneously trying to be the best pop star of all time, the best hitmaker, while also being the best MC and the top rapper. To quote one of his own songs, it's like, "You want a lot, but you can't have everything." By engaging in battles with guys like Pusha T, Common, or Meek Mill, he's trying to show the world that he is the top-ranking rapper in the game. But every time he engages in one of these beefs or makes that claim that he is the best MC, another reference track leaks, which reminds the world that Drake is a great artist, but lacks a lot of the core elements that make a great MC. So the problem isn't that Drake has ghostwriters, right? Some of the best rap artists like Kanye West, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, they've all used writers to create some of their biggest records. The problem is that while Drake tries to proclaim himself as the best artist of all time, or the biggest artist of all time, he's also trying competitively to take that crown as the top MC. And to be that top MC, you have to write your own rhymes. It's as simple as that. So basically, once Drake decides that he no longer wants to compete with Pusha T in a lyrical spar, and he basically backs out of that beef, he ends up doing another great job at shifting the public attention away from his Pusha T and Kanye beef by dropping his massive album, Scorpion. Now, at that point in Drake's career, it seemed that whenever he was challenged on either a lyrical level or someone was trying to damage his reputation, he did what every great artist should do and drop great music to distract the public from any sort of damaging information that was laid out against it. So in this circumstance, he dropped Scorpion, and basically, beyond the global hits that were on the album, there was a lot of subliminal disses against Pusha T and Kanye West, where Drake basically decided he wouldn't outright compete in the battle against Pusha T and Kanye West, but he would still consistently throw sneak disses at them and subliminally diss them basically on the entire album, implying that he potentially slept with Kim Kardashian. And particularly on the song Mob Ties, which is one of the best tracks off the album, he references his connection to the Prince family, who may or may not be connected to the Houston mob, but were most definitely connected to Drake backing out of his fight against Pusha T and Kanye West. Now, this track was amazing. It came with some slick bars like Louis bags in exchange for body bags, and also some really cringe bars like "I'm not with the rah-rah, I am a dada." There's no way anyone wrote that except for Drake. But ultimately, it was songs like this that won back the general public from that massive L that he took to Pusha T. Now, fast forward to 2024 and something very similar is happening, right? Recently, a reference track leaked of Mob Ties, which has the artist Vory basically singing the entire song almost word for word, except not for that rah rah I'm a dada line, of course. That was written by Drake. You could see the skeleton of the song wasn't really a skeleton like his other reference tracks, right? When the Quentin Miller reference tracks dropped, they sounded extremely unfinished. There was no emotion or melody behind them. They almost sounded like a blank canvas for Drake to then add his own flair, his own flow, his own style or lyrics to. But this Mob Ties record is different. Vory is doing everything from the ad-libs to the melodies to the vocal inflections. He covers the entire hook. A lot of the verses were almost word for word directly reused by Drake. And why this is such a bad look for Drake is not the fact that he's actually using a ghostwriter for this song, but it's the context of everything. This song was supposed to be a direct response to the entire Pusha T and Kanye West situation. It was songs like these that won the public back over after he lost that battle. It's songs like these that sound personal to the actual situation that Drake was involved in with these rappers. So again, going back to the whole identity crisis that Drake is likely suffering, is one thing if you have PARTYNEXTDOOR writing all your R&B records, or you have Lil Yachty writing your club bangers. But once you get into a track like Mob Ties, which is a more personal record, or at least touching on things that were actually going on in your life at the time, it seems extremely disingenuous to hear someone else rapping this entire song word for word, knowing that you didn't actually come up with the lyrics that are so relevant to your own situation. And as a Drake fan, it's a little disturbing, right? We don't know if Drake's most personal records were actually written by Drake, or if we're listening to someone completely depict Drake's life through their own lens, and then Drake just raps over it. And as for Drake, things are looking scary in the sense that not only has he lost the public's trust, but it's also up in the air on who actually leaked these reference tracks out, right? Kendrick has been consistently implying that there are leakers within the OVO camp. And with new reference tracks constantly leaking, it makes you think who within the industry or within Drake's organization itself is actually out to get him and destroy his legacy. But beyond just that, from a fan's perspective, again, it's a very common theme that when Drake either takes an L in a battle or when damaging information like the ghostwriting rumors come into play, he always shuts up public perception by just dropping phenomenal music and a bunch of hits. So with the entire Kendrick beef, with everyone basically unanimously claiming that Drake took the L in that whole situation, and now with new ghostwriting reference tracks being leaked, everyone's wondering what's Drake's next move going to be. We saw him already drop a song with Sexy Red, which I don't think is going to stand as a hit or be a redeemable enough track based off everything that's kind of transpired over the last month. But Drake has usually done a great job at cleaning up his image and again making us all forget about any L that he took by just dropping great music. Now, I've said in previous videos, I think the best move that Drake can make right now is dropping a solo album where there's not one feature, where it's him getting personal, self-reflective, basically getting into a lyrical bag like he gets on the Time Stamp records, or like he did on his early albums like Nothing Was the Same or Take Care, where he really reflects on why people are out to get him and this entire back and forth between him and the entire music industry and where that kind of leaves his legacy or his place in hip-hop and in music in general. And while reference tracks continue to leak, yes, we can obviously question Drake's true, hit-making abilities or natural songwriting talents based off the fact that some of his best hits, like Mob Ties, were actually written by other artists. You can't deny his actual songwriting skills. Drake has written for other massive artists, right? Beyond just Kanye West writing songs like Yikes or 30 Hours or Father Stretch My Hands, he's also written for artists like Beyonce. He wrote Fall For Your Type by Jamie Foxx. He wrote Unthinkable by Alicia Keys. These are amazing records. There's no doubt that Drake could write phenomenal hits. However, between constantly incorporating different sounds of cultures that he's not truly involved in, like the London, UK sounds or the Caribbean island sounds, to then this influx of reference tracks constantly being leaked where we see that some of his best R&B records or hip-hop records or even personal records were actually written by other artists, it begs the question, what will Drake actually be remembered for? Again, he wants every title. He wants to be the best rapper, the best pop star, the best hitmaker. He wants to constantly switch sounds. He wants to incorporate guys like Lil Yachty or Yeet or Sexy Red to stay in touch with what's going on in the younger generation. It's obvious that Drake's at this fork in the road where he's kind of confused on what type of legacy he wants to leave behind. And with these reference tracks continuously leaking, it emphasizes that question even further. Besides the surface level hits, what will we really remember Drake for? I'll leave that up to you guys in the comments section. If you like this video, smash that like button and that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.